You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken Tech for your ears.
So if you think back to the 1950s, early television was really just a single static camera pointed directly at a stage play.
Right, yeah, like they hadn't figured out the medium yet.
Exactly. They took this completely revolutionary piece of technology and just used it to, like, awkwardly mimic an old constraint. They literally hadn't figured out how to move the camera. And looking through this massive stack of April 2026 design updates and tech news that you've shared with us today for this deep dive, it's just incredibly obvious that we're doing the exact same thing right now with AI.
We really are. We took this massive leap in cognitive computing and basically reduced it to a text message thread.
Right. The chat box. We are officially kicking off our deep dive today into a massive shift that's happening right now. We're moving away from these clunky AI chat tools and heading toward, well, deeply embedded systems.
Yeah, and it's a journey that really highlights why human taste and, raw authenticity are becoming way more valuable than ever.
Completely. And we're going to take you through all of it, from the death of that chat box to the rise of this new designer builder role, all the way to how actual physical constraints are grounding our tech. So let's start with that chat interface. There's a provocative article in your stack arguing that the chat box is just a terrible UI paradigm.
Oh, it's arguably the worst possible paradigm for complex interaction. I mean, the chat interface was just the path of least resistance for engineers.
It was just what was fastest to ship.
Right, exactly. It was the quickest way to get a model into the public's hands. But the problem is that a conversational UI hides all of its affordances. Like, a good interface exposes its structure.
Right, it gives you dials and menus.
Yeah, dials, switches. You intuitively know what the system can actually do. But a blank text box, it gives you zero clues about its boundaries.
It just creates this massive, completely unnecessary cognitive load. The analogy that jumped out at me from your notes, it's like being forced to write a 5-paragraph essay just to order a coffee.
That's the perfect way to look at it.
I mean, instead of just pressing a button on an espresso machine, we are forcing users to draft inefficient prose to express a really simple intent. Why are we prioritizing the AI's preferred input over our natural workflows?
Well, and beyond the friction, there's actually a real psychological danger here. If you look at the research on deceptive AI conversation design in the stack.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that.
So the industry spent the last few years desperately trying to make these models sound human. Programming and conversational fillers, simulated empathy, fake emotional cues.
Oh, wait, how is that dangerous? I mean, I get how it might be annoying, but how does simulated empathy lower critical thinking? If an AI is like, oh, I'm so sorry your code broke, isn't that just a nice user experience?
You'd think so, but it exploits our hardwired social protocols. When a system simulates emotion, the user subconsciously categorizes it as a peer, not a tool.
Oh, wow. So you let your guard down.
Exactly. The research shows this emotional attachment lowers the user's guard and subtly nudges them into compliance. They literally stop scrutinizing the output for hallucinations because their brain is applying the social grace they would give to a friend.
That is wild. But what's fascinating here is that the solution isn't making AI more human-like. To fix this, we actually need cold transparency.
Precisely. We have to strip away the facade entirely. That means using really concise mechanical language, explicitly surfacing uncertainty instead of projecting this false confidence.
Right, treating users honestly as operators of a system.
Yeah, that is the only way to build durable trust. And if we drop that conversational illusion, the natural progression is to just drop the chat box altogether.
Yeah, we are seeing that. The industry is definitely feeling this friction because the transition toward visual task-specific embedded tools is just accelerating rapidly. The AI is finally sinking into the background.
Yes. The folder instructions concept from your stack is like the perfect illustration of this. We are looking at system-level AI, where folders evolve from dumb storage bins into these persistent, context-rich environments.
Okay, walk me through the mechanics of that. If I drag a messy pile of PDFs into one of these folders, what is actually happening if I'm not typing a prompt to a chatbot?
So you define the folders rule set once. Say you set a folder to manage your freelance taxes. From that moment on, the environment acts autonomously in the background.
It just watches the files.
It constantly monitors them. It reads the metadata, extracts text, figures out if a PDF is an invoice or a receipt, renames it using your exact naming convention, and then routes it to the right subdirectory.
That's incredible.
It even flags anomalies for human review. It's a total shift from active commands to structured, always-on workflows.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if the AI is becoming this ambient, silent environment, it's not just organizing files anymore. It's fundamentally altering the execution layer of all our creative tools.
Oh, absolutely. The distance between an initial idea and a finished product is essentially collapsing.
The sheer speed of this integration is staggering. Like OpenAI's ChatGPT Images 2.0 is natively embedded right inside Figma now. Design, draw, slides, FigJam is just generating high-quality infographics on the fly. Multilingual layouts with perfect face preservation. And then Anthropic just launched Claude Design, utilizing that Opus 4.7 vision model.
And Anthropic's approach is super disruptive because Opus 4.7 isn't just spitting out a flat mockup, it structurally understands design systems.
Right, it hooks right into GitHub.
Exactly. You feed it an idea, and it pulls your team's exact component libraries, respects established padding variables, and generates functional prototypes.
So we're seeing design shifting left directly into the technology stack. Designers are defining the model parameters before the interface even exists.
Because the systems are model forward now, the AI's output is the experience. You're designing the behavioral guardrails of a generative model tailored to individual users rather than, predictable static screens.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. With all these rapid creation tools like Canva Magic Layers turning flat designs into editable layouts instantly, or Rapid Native building shareable apps in 3 minutes, or Montage.app doing sentence-level video editing where you delete a word and it recuts the footage. Do human designers even have a job in 2026? Are we just becoming tired middle managers of AI bots?
I hear that anxiety a lot, but it really misinterprets the shift. The barrier between design and engineering has collapsed, and we are entering the era of AI agent orchestration.
Orchestration, meaning the human role is elevated.
Yes, elevated to strategic direction.
Yeah.
One of the case studies you shared follows a designer who shipped 3 complete apps in 2025 using just plain language. They weren't writing syntax. They treated the AI as a partner.
I read that. They broke the workflow down into 4 distinct phases, right?
Right. First, accepting rough, basic outputs just to establish momentum. Second, debugging through conversation.
Wait, how does conversational debugging actually work without getting stuck in a really frustrating loop?
Well, instead of manually fixing a misaligned div in the code editor, you communicate the structural failure. You say, the global padding on mobile viewports violates our accessibility standards. Increase it and adjust the spacing for child elements.
Oh, I see.
Then phase 3 is applying systems thinking, feeding the AI explicit rules so it doesn't make the same mistake twice. And the final phase is simply knowing when a product is actually ready to ship.
That third phase, the systems thinking, that's where the friction is. There's an article you shared about AI coding agents that highlights this perfectly. An AI can read your entire code base, but it produces generic results because it doesn't know the product's soul.
Yes, the agent knows the logic, but it lacks the soul.
Because the soul isn't code. It's the brand voice, the identity. Humans have to structure this missing context into reusable skills. If you don't, the model just defaults to the mathematical mean of its training data.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we are fundamentally talking about taste. AI lacks taste. Your materials reference Steve Jobs' philosophy at Apple, which is so relevant right now. An AI can produce a flawless output, but it cannot choose a meaningful problem to solve. It cannot apply cultural judgment.
It just predicts the next token.
Exactly. Guiding ideas toward actual innovation is a uniquely human trait. Imagination and strategy matter so much more now than tool skills.
Which completely reframes that story about Paul O'Brien. He's a design director who had terrible imposter syndrome when these tools hit. But it turns out it was just an environment mismatch.
His whole career was built on mastering software shortcuts. When AI commoditized that, he felt lost.
But his taste was still his superpower. He just had to find alignment for those strengths. One role doesn't define your ability. Plus, as the Munich Creative Business Week highlighted with their Playground of Possibilities Festival, we really need to focus on the joy of creating rather than just stressing over perfection.
Absolutely. The joy is what makes it human.
And here's where it gets really interesting. As the digital world gets hyper-automated and flooded with AI perfection, users are aggressively pushing back. They are craving raw authenticity and physical grounding.
We're seeing a visceral rejection of the synthetic.
Huge rejection. Look at the Colgate backlash. They posted this shamelessly AI-generated advertising campaign, and the internet immediately called it out as AI slop. The textures were weird, the lighting was too perfect, and Colgate took a massive hit to their credibility.
Trust is so fragile.
It really is. Even typography choices like that 25 trustworthy fonts article you provided, it shows that credibility hinges on physical, visual characteristics.
And social media is scrambling to adapt to this demand for realness. Instagram is currently testing Instance.
Oh, the standalone app.
Yeah, it's dedicated to sharing unedited disappearing photos. But the key constraint is that you can only capture the image using the live in-app camera.
So you literally cannot upload a polished AI photo from your camera roll.
Exactly, and the photos are gone in 24 hours. It's a calculated structural constraint to lower the pressure and compete with Burial, forcing a return to genuine personal interaction.
Which leads right into the ultimate constraint on all this software, the human body.
The physical constraint is the one thing software cannot abstract away. The tappability research in your stack proves this. Despite having screens with infinite digital resolution, human fingers are three-dimensional.
Right, our fingers physically block the glass.
They do, so touch targets must be physically measured in millimeters, not pixels. Optimal sizing is 7 millimeters at the center of the screen, 9 millimeters along the edges, and 12 millimeters in the extreme corners.
Because of how your thumb flattens out when it
And
stretches, right.
Exactly. The digital layout is totally subservient to human anatomy.
And humans still seek out physical, local connections. Look at the Washington Square Park Conservancy rebrand by Pentagram. It's whimsical, hand-drawn, slightly imperfect. It captures the everyday spirit of the park. We crave environments that make us feel something.
Or we seek emotional escapism, like the artist Bunch of Fantasies or Max Strecker, using Midjourney not for realism, but to create these cinematic crystalline dreamscapes just to escape daily stress.
Right. So how are the major tech platforms adapting their hardware to all of this? This desire for taste, physical constraints, ambient moods?
Well, the late 2026 Apple rumors show them leaning heavily into the physical,
Yeah, the iPhone 18 Pro Max is expected to actually be slightly thicker.
reversing a two-decade trend. They are accepting more physical bulk to accommodate a massive advanced camera bump for authentic photography.
Plus the rumors of the iPhone Ultra, a foldable device launching alongside the 18 lineup that runs two apps side by side.
And the OS is evolving to match this. iOS 26.4 introduces ambient music widgets right on the home screen. You can instantly start playlists based on moods like chill, productivity, sleep.
Though it's locked to Apple Music, naturally, shutting out Spotify.
Of course, but the environment is responding to your psychological state now.
So what does this all mean? We're seeing third-party apps fall in line with this too. Reddit's latest beta is adopting Apple's polished, liquid glass design aesthetic, rolling out via test flight.
Everything is becoming translucent. The technology is fading into the background. We are finally moving away from active, inefficient chats to ambient, beautifully designed, highly structured digital environments that actually respect our physical limitations.
Okay, so to recap this amazing journey for everyone listening, we've explored the death of the chat box, the rise of the designer builder who orchestrates AI, this fierce human craving for taste, authenticity, and physical capability, and how it's all culminating in hardware that just blends into our ambient environment.
It's a massive paradigm shift. And it leaves us with one really lingering question. If AI is now managing our files in the background based on behavioral instructions, and our tools can generate complete apps based solely on our taste, will the next generation of creators even know how to build a basic user interface from scratch? Or will taste and orchestration become the only human languages left in the digital world?
Man, that is the perfect thought to chew on. Thank you so much for bringing this incredible deep dive to us, and thank you, the listener, for exploring it with us. Keep trusting your taste, and we will catch you next time.
Spoken Tech for your ears.